In this video, we're going to talk about slope-intercept form. Now, if a line has slope m and y-intercept b, then it is the graph of the equation y equals mx plus b. And this is called the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line. As an example, let's find the equation of the line that has y-intercept -3 and slope 5/2. Now remember, the y-intercept is what we're calling b, and the slope is what we're calling m. Okay, so if we write this as y equals mx plus b, then it would be y equals 5/2 x plus -3. Now we can rewrite, instead of having plus -3, we could just write -3. So y equals 5/2 x minus 3. That's the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line that has slope 5/2 and y-intercept -3. And it actually makes sense that the y-intercept is -3 because remember, how do we find the y-intercept of a graph if we know the equation? Well, don't we just plug in 0 for x? Okay, and if x is 0, then y would be -3. So it makes sense looking at this equation that the y-intercept is -3. Okay, now let's graph that line. Y equals 5/2 x minus 3. And this is a very important skill that you should know how to do, is to graph an equation that's in slope-intercept form, that's in the form y equals mx plus b. Okay, now for this particular one, it has a y-intercept of -3. So that's always the first point that I plot, is the y-intercept. Okay, it's -3. The slope is 5/2. Now one way to think of 5/2 is it's 5 over 2. So if we thought of rise over run, we could think of the rise as being 5 and the run as being 2. Now what I always do after plotting the y-intercept is I look at the run. Okay, notice that the run is 2. So I'm going to go to the right 2, and then I'm going to go up 5. Okay, if I go up 5, where do I end up? Well, I started out at a height of -3. If I go up 5, I'll be to a height of 2. So notice I went over 2 and then up 5. Okay, because the slope is 5/2. If I go over 2 more, we'd be over at 4. And if I go up 5, it would take us all the way up to a height of 7. Okay, so actually our line is going to go through these 3 points. Okay, and then I've drawn the line. So again, the first step is always plot the y-intercept, -3, then do the slope. So 5/2 slope means that the run is going to be 2, the rise will be 5. Now what if the slope, for example, had been 4? Well, what does that mean? What's the rise and run? Well, 4 is the same thing as 4 over 1. So you'd run to the right 1 and you would go up 4. Okay, now let's find the equation of the horizontal line with y-intercept 4. Now, horizontal line means that the slope is 0. Okay, and then the y-intercept is 4 means that b is 4. So if we write this as y equals mx plus b, what we would get is y equals 0x plus 4, but 0x is just 0, so y equals 4. Now y equals 4 is the equation of a horizontal line with y-intercept 4. Now that might sound a little strange, but let's suppose we have, here's our x and y axes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. The horizontal line at height 4 would look like this. Now there's lots of points on this line. For example, the point 7, 4 is on here. The point 3, 4 is on here. -2, 4 is on here. Now, is that really true that the graph of y equals 4 looks like this? Well, remember, the graph of an equation is going to, the coordinates of each point on the graph of an equation have to satisfy the equation or make it true. So if we plug in 3 for x into this equation and 4 for y, does it make it true? Well, yeah, there's nowhere to even plug in the 3. But if we do plug in 4 for y, it makes it true. Okay, same thing with 7, 4. If 7 goes in for x, well, there's nowhere to even plug in 7. But if we put in 7 for x and 4 for y, this is true. Okay, so any point on this line has the y coordinate being 4, and so that will be on the equation. Y equals 4. Okay, now, so let's make a note here. If k is a constant, then the graph of y equals k is a horizontal line with y-intercept k. Notice this one had a y-intercept of 4 here. Okay, also, If x is a constant, then the graph of x equals k is a vertical line with x-intercept k. For example, if we're going to graph x equals 3, well, what points are on the line x equals 3? Is 3 comma 7 going to be on that line? Yes, because when we plug in 3 for x and 7 for y, it makes this true. But there's no y to even plug the 7 in for. So, in fact, any point that has first coordinate being 3 will be on this equation. Now, what about 5 comma 1? Will that be a solution of this? No. Okay, but any point where the first coordinate is 3 will work. And so where are those points? Well, those points are all on this vertical line. Okay, 3 comma 7 would be up here somewhere. 3 comma 2 would be here. Okay, so x equals some number will be a vertical line, and y equals some number would be a horizontal line. Okay, now our last example, let's find the slope and the y-intercept of the line 10x plus 6y equals 3. Now, I would like to get this in the form y equals mx plus b. So what we need to do is solve for y, or get y all by itself. So notice we have a 6y plus a 10x. To get rid of the plus 10x, let's subtract 10x from both sides. And we can rewrite the left side then is just 6y. And the right side would be 3 minus 10x, or another way to say that is negative 10x plus 3. Okay, and finally, we can, since we're multiplying y by 6, we can divide both sides by 6. And that will give us y all by itself. So y equals negative 10x plus 3 over 6. Now, this fraction here we can rewrite as negative 10x over 6 plus 3 over 6. Now 3 over 6 is just 1/2, and negative 10 over 6 is just negative 5/3. And you could either put the x on the top of the fraction or put the x out here. It really means the same thing. But what we have is negative 5/3 x plus 1/2. So now it's in slope-intercept form. The y-intercept is going to be 1/2. Okay, and the slope, the m, is going to be negative 5/3.